How's everybody doing out there? I am Mark from Gamble Smart. Yeah, kind of a surprise Q&A today, so I appreciate you guys joining in on the fun. Fortunately, Dave is not going to be able to join us today. He's off doing his Tough Mudder, I think in Chicago this time, so we're sending him the best of vibes. I think he just finished his last race, so he's hurting bad. So, but anyway, I thought I would do a live stream since we missed it on Wednesday. You know, we always do our Q&As every single Wednesday. We figured, hey, let's go ahead and do one today. Yeah, so how's everybody doing today? I see you guys in there. Proud Monkey in the house. Get a big shout out to our 3 mods, Proud Monkey, Susan, and then also Majestic Slots in the house. These guys help us keep everything under control and good stuff. So thank you guys so much for joining today. Really do appreciate you. This is an open Q&A, so start putting your questions in. I'm solo today, so it's going to be hard for me to look at the questions as they come in and star them for later and all that kind of stuff. I will do my best to get your question answered. But if we don't, make sure you come back on Wednesday and ask your question because we'll be able to answer it then. So we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. Obviously, we'll be answering your questions, but I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper into sweeps casinos as well as social casinos and then land-based casinos and then online casinos. There are clear differences between them. We're not calling any of them bad or anything like that, but we're going to just talk about what the differences are, and just so you have the most accurate information, and then you make the decision which of those platforms is best for you. And so we're going to go over a couple of things that I pulled up here, because I think there is a lot of confusion, especially with the video we posted yesterday about our opinion on this sweepstakes thing. There's a lot of confusion about what it actually is and what it actually means to you, the player, right? And I think it'd be a good time to go through all of that. So that you guys have the right information going in and you can make your decision whether you want to play on those platforms or not. All right, let me quickly put my do not disturb on so we don't hear all my dinging from the emails and stuff. All right, so let's, I'm going to wait until a couple more people come in here before I kind of start my thing on the difference between the casinos, because I know a lot of people are wanting to hear that. So all right, so let me get to a couple of questions in here, and we'll get started with those. So Majestic Slot says, Mark, is Easy Money a top dollar variant? I saw it in Atlantis and the Bahamas as a 5-line version. Gave it a shot as I'm wondering. So funny enough, the same guy that created Top Dollar created Easy Money, and that's because he worked for IGT for probably about 25 years, and then he left to go work with WMS, who is the maker of Easy Money, for a couple of years. And so he couldn't obviously recreate, you couldn't call it Top Dollar because that's, you know, it's copyrighted, trademarked. So he had to come up with something different. So he came up with Easy Money. And so funny enough, it's the same actual creator of the game. And then he went back to IGT a couple years after that. So it is definitely a variant. You can kind of feel how it's a little, you know, compared to Top Dollar, real similar, right? I was never a huge fan of it, mostly because of the music and the sounds, and I don't know what makes Top Dollar so awesome is the sound engine that they use for it. In my opinion, that's the coolest thing about it. So there you go. All right, and then Burgett asks, "Hey Mark, how do I get a seat with Pop Slots besides your drawing? Thanks." All right, so Pop Slots, and full disclaimer, we are being compensated for the Pop Slots giveaway, and that is basically us giving away a seat for the World Tournament of Slots that is taking place later this month or later in October. But the drawing is going to happen at the end of this month. I think September 10th is when we do the drawing, but the last day to enter for our drawing will be at the end of this month. And all you got to do for ours is we have a couple of videos where we talked about it. You just got to put a comment in those videos and you're automatically entered. But tell us which is your favorite game inside of Pop Slots. But actually, you can actually earn entries inside of the app itself. Now, Dave is going to be able to tell you exactly. I don't really know exactly how to do it. I know that there's certain time windows that you have to play in order to cash those entries in to potentially get a seat to the World Tournament of Slots. And so I'll have him talk about that on Wednesday, Burgett, so that he can give you exact details on how to continue to win potential seats inside of that. But again, full disclosure, they are a sponsor of ours, and we love them because we already play Pop Slots. We've been playing it Dave's been playing it for a decade now. And the reason we love them is just because you really don't have to buy anything on there. I mean, you can buy coin packs if you want to, but you can get away with it. I've never bought anything. I just use the daily stuff that I get, and If I run out, I run out, and I wait till the next day, and then I cash in the daily, free coins and stuff like that. But you can cash all that stuff in for like discount tickets to shows at Vegas and stuff like that. And that's why we kind of like it, because it feels like you're getting, at least something back, right? And so yeah. All right, let's move on. All right, what Tex Bino says, what's the benefit of having a host? Well, to make things a little bit easier for booking purposes, evaluating free play, usually a host will give you a little something extra compared to the automated systems. Like if you were to get an email or a postcard or something that says, you get 3 nights free and $100 in food and beverage. If you book it through that, it's possible that the host could actually juice that up a little bit, give you a better room, extend your stay a little bit, maybe give you more food and beverage credit, maybe give you more free play. So the benefit is kind of that, but also just the ease of making reservations and stuff. Like the host that I have out in Vegas, his name's Tom. Shout out to Tom if you're watching. He's been my host for probably, I want to say 15 years now since I've been going out there. Great host. He basically knows me, right? He knows how I like to do things. He knows I don't like to talk on the phone. He knows I don't like to use the online booking engine. So I just email him and say, hey, Tom, coming out these dates, please arrange. Boom. He emails me back. All taken care of, Mark. See you soon. That's another benefit of a host. It just makes that process a whole lot easier. So, but it's certainly not necessary, and certainly don't play to try to get the attention of a host unless you're comfortable with playing that, if that makes sense. All right. Lou Ross says, I heard from another channel that slot machines in the cruise ships are server-based and therefore a casino can alter the odds. No, they're not. Okay, listen, let's break this down just a little bit. So all slot machines are linked to a server at this point. Every single casino, they're networked. How else do slot attendants know that you hit a jackpot, right? Or how do slot techs like myself, how do we know that there's some kind of tilt or error on the machine? They're all networked and they notify them. Plus, all the accounting goes through that network. So the amount of coin in, coin out, if you have your player's card in, who's playing, who's not, that kind of thing. So all that stuff is networked. But when it comes to the actual control of the odds and the payback percentage and stuff like that, there is something called server-based gaming, SBG, I think it is. I don't remember. Server-based gaming, yeah, SBG. It is definitely something that's available, but to my understanding, and believe me, I've asked a lot of people in this industry, none of that is in use anywhere right now inside of the US and probably on cruise ships too. They may change the odds between sailings. We don't know. It's something that's possible. They would still have to go to each individual machine that they want to change and change them there. It has to be done on the actual machine itself. So they can push down a request. Like they have a server that says, okay, we want to change that, but you still have to open and unseal the machine and make the change there. So there is some regulation behind them just being able to change things whenever they want. So hopefully that helps. I think I answered all that question. All right, let's see. I'm just going to go back through questions here, guys. Just bear with me. Keep it going. Hope everybody's doing good on this Sunday afternoon. It's very, very hot in here. That's why I don't have the machines on behind me. Plus, they generate a lot of noise too. Everybody's complaining about that on the last video. So, all right, let's see. All right, this is a good one. Brian Bailey says, when the game rules say your odds increase of hitting a mini, minor, major, or grand because of the bet size, does that mean bet size overall or the bet size within your denomination that you're playing? So it can be both, right? So on most games, whenever you change the denomination, the amount of the mini, minor, the mini and the minor change with it, right? And that's just based on the denomination. Those aren't actually progressives. Those are just bonus, right? They're just bonus pays. And so those change every time you change the denomination. Now, if you change the denomination and the major and the grand do not change, then that one is about your overall bet size, right? So the closer your overall bet size is to those amounts, the easier it's going to be to win. It doesn't make it incredibly easier, but it definitely does make them show up a lot more. That's why if you're on the high end of, let's say, the max denomination and the max number of credits, you could be betting, $200 a spin and the major is $1,100. it's much more likely you're going to see the major go off just because you're betting 200. Where if you're betting $1, it's pretty far away from that $1,100 major. It's going to be harder to hit. So hopefully that makes sense. But that is definitely a mechanic that's in use right now. All right. Yeah, and if any of you guys are new here, yeah, click the thumbs up button. Let's get more people in here. Let's have a fun afternoon here. And of course, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We really appreciate you guys. All right, let's see. Simon S. says, I won hand pay at my local casino last night, and they told me they no longer take taxes out of winnings. It was $1,600 on a double diamond deluxe $5 max bet. I have never heard of that, and I don't think that's legal. I don't think that's possible. Simon, do me a favor. I really want to look into this. Send me an email, gamblesmartgamblesafe@gmail.com, and let me know what casino, if you don't mind. I'd like to look into that because I think by law, they have to give you that option. That's never heard of that before. I don't think that's right. All right, let's see. Okay, DM Gamer says, and I think you're new here, so welcome. If a certain machine is having such losses and not making money, are they disabling the machine for long? So the one thing to keep in mind, and this kind of answers all these questions about when things are happening on a slot machine. Every single spin is a true independent event, right? So it doesn't really matter what has happened before or after or anything like that. It's not making any kind of changes to the programming of it. Every spin is an independent event. So just because somebody's hit a bunch of hand pays right before you play the machine, or somebody dumped thousands and thousands of dollars in there before you play the machine, doesn't have any bearing on what's going to happen the next time the spin button is pressed. This is one of those things that a lot of people don't fully understand with slot machines. Like you feel the hot, the hot and cold and all that kind of stuff, but it's not designed to be that way. It's just a mathematical probability program that will play out eventually. The longer it gets played, the more likely all the probabilities that have been programmed in that game will come to fruition, right? And that's just how slot machines end up working. So if they disable a machine, it doesn't mean anything. It could turn it off for 3 days, and they may say, well, we're turning it off so that nobody plays it because we don't want to pay out on it because it's in a paying state. And I'm using that in quotes. That's not the legitimate reason they're turning it off, hopefully, because otherwise they don't know how slot machines work either. But a lot of people say these things because they're, for example, they'll say that, a casino will turn a machine off when the progressive gets really high because they don't want to pay out the progressive. Well, I hate to break it to you, but by law, they have to pay out that progressive. Maybe not necessarily on that machine, but it is going to be paid back to the players in some fashion. A lot of times they combine it with another one. Let's say it's a machine that can't be repaired. I think they have like a 30-day window to get it repaired. And if not, they have to take whatever the value was of that progressive and they need to combine it with another machine. And it could be a different game completely, but it has to be another progressive machine on the floor. So yeah, casinos can't really try to get around paying people by turning machines off or disabling them, stuff like that. There's no way to do that. Good question. All right. And Jackie Flack says, thanks for bearing with me, guys. When you pick a slot machine to play with multiple denominations, how do you figure out your bet per spin? I have a lot of trouble with math, so figuring out is hard for me. You're not alone here. This is one thing that I wish slot machine manufacturers would change, and that is allow you to, in some games actually do this. I think Frankenstein, Dracula, there are some games that let you do this, where you pick your bet size, your denomination, and then your bet size. But before you actually spin, it will tell you on the screen what the dollar amount is of that combination that you picked. So if you pick 5 cents at 200, it'll tell you what that is. And I think that's good, right? But some of them are not like that, right? You press the credit, you press the denomination, and then you press the credits, and guess what? It spins, and then you see what it is. So I think there should be a rule change there. What do you guys think? I think they should always allow you to see what the total bet size is before you actually initiate the spin. I agree with you. And some of these get really complicated, like nickels, and it's 888. How many nickels is 888? It's hard to do the math on that for most of us. So it's like, just show us what it is before I press the spin button. So hopefully we'll see some change to that. I'd like to see some change to that. All right, let's see what else we got. All right, hang tight real quick. I got a work email in. It's the critical issue. Hold on. It never fails, man. Life in IT. It'll only take me a second. So keep asking your questions, guys, and we're going to talk about different types of casinos here in just a second. All right, that's taken care of. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got. EJ Lapslaw said, heard an influencer state that he hadn't been in that casino for months, yet he had thousands in free play. Can that be true? My free play always expires in a week or two. It actually absolutely can be true. In fact, I haven't been to Vegas since March, I think it's been, and my free play has been going up. I haven't been there. I haven't been gambling there. And so it really depends on the casino and the environment and how much competition there is. If it's a casino where there's not a lot of competition or it's in a small town, things like that, they can do things completely different. WinStar is like this. WinStar's comps, very complicated system, but I haven't been there in a long time and I don't have any comps right now. They all expired. So it really depends on the casino, where it's at, things like that. But it's a reasonable thing that could happen depending on the casino. Greedy Gambler, hey y'all, how's it going? Thanks for joining us, appreciate you. Okay, let's see what else we got in here. All right, let's see. JP says, hey Mark, I received a hand pay at a slot machine at Wild Horse Casino in Eastern Oregon, and the payout was under $1,000. No Social Security, I think. An upper required, but why was it defined as hand pay? Yeah, that's a good question. So this has actually happened to me a lot. So one of the things that New York started doing in the New York casino in Las Vegas is any of the new machines that they're putting on the floor, they're setting to $1,000, even though there's no tax paperwork or anything. They're setting $1,000. I don't know why they're doing that. My guess is they just want more tips. I mean, it makes sense, but there may be another reason behind it. But it's also pretty famous and well known that casinos in Arizona set it at 600 because the same reason. It's the tips, and also they want to get excitement. They want to hear the sound of the jackpot hand pay going off and people getting excited for hearing that, and people thinking, oh, now it's the time to play, which of course we know is bogus. But there's a lot of reasons that go into that. And there's also just some machines that are so old that they have to trigger a hand pay at 1,000. Cherry's Jubilee at MGM, they have to trigger a hand pay at 1,000 just because of the way the progressive set up. But yeah, you avoid paperwork. Definitely possible. Slot Crush in the house. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. All right. I'll take a couple more questions and I'm going to start talking about some of this other stuff here. All right, Rosalind HB says, question, lately I've noticed a lot of slot progressives are now fixed amounts. Example, $10,000 grand, $1,500 major. Why would casinos do that? And what happened to the money that was previously on the machine? So depending on the game, casinos do have an option to have it not be a progressive, but a fixed amount. And it really, again, depends on the game if that's going to be allowable or not. The other thing this could be is just they're maxed out. If you see them reset and they reset lower than that, then they were just maxed out at the point. But I think what you're trying to say, and I've seen this before, a good example of this is a top dollar grand that came out last year. There are some casinos where the top grand option up there is just fixed at 1,000 credits or $1,000, whatever you're playing denomination wise. It doesn't grow. But they can't just make that change after it started growing, if that makes sense. So they can't have it grow to 90,000 and say, yeah, we don't want to pay that out, so let's fix it at 10,000. They can't do that. They can't get away with that. They have to make sure that progressive is one. Now, one of the things they can do is set it up so that it does act like a progressive and then trigger something called end of life, which they basically make the machine lock up after that progressive is won so that they can then make the change at that point. Because if nobody's played it, the progressive can't climb, if that makes sense. So that could be what's also going on. All right. And Nancy Ann says, how are the online casinos different from land-based? We're going to get into that in 2 more questions. We're going to start talking about that. Let's see. Nickelodeon says, and what was your favorite Nickelodeon show, guys? I'm going to date myself. I think it was Hey Dude. You guys remember that one? Definitely dating myself. Are automatic roulette wheels truly always random, or does the amount of people and bet size affect its play? No, those have to be completely random. So by law, any kind of virtual table game, whether it's blackjack, roulette, craps, video poker, whatever, anything dealing with cards or a ball or dice, that part has to be truly random. They can't put weights on it, meaning that let's say that you just put $100 chip on black 28. They can't say, well, make sure that the odds of hitting that black 28 are worse on this next spin because he's bet really high. They can't do that. That's not allowed. So, and that should make you feel comfortable that there's no fixing. And people would say, oh yeah, but they use magnets. Like, prove it, right? I've been inside those machines. There are no magnets. That would never be allowed. That would never be allowed on the casino floor. So feel comfortable with that. Now, they can monkey with the payback percentage. And this is something that you really should be looking out for. On roulette, on virtual roulette especially, look to see if what you get paid on a straight up is 1 in 35 or if it's 1 in 32. I've seen both. So if you find one that on a straight up bet, it's 1 in 32, that's worse odds. And that's what they're doing, is controlling the payouts. And it's the same for video poker, same for blackjack. The way they do it with blackjack is they eliminate some of the things that you can do to get closer to that house edge, like splitting and doubling down and surrender and things like that. Insurance, those are all things that if they take all those away, it's actually increasing the house edge on the game. So really, when you're playing those virtual games, you got to look and see what the pay table looks like, what you're potentially giving up. That can control that, but they can't control the shuffling of the cards and stuff like that. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. I guess I should take this banner down saying that the show's about to start. Oh boy. All right. B Martini Slot says, just a quick question. What casino is that double top dollar from behind you? I don't know where this one came from. I really don't remember seeing any kind of, sometimes we have the ticket printer paper. Sometimes there's a lot of Players Club cards in there and stuff like that. And sometimes there's paperwork. We get the actual paperwork from the slot techs and stuff that are stuffed inside the machine, but I don't know where that one came from. But that one actually sold. So that one's going out the door this week. But we have more. Well, that's our last double top dollar. And then we have some other top dollars that we're going to have soon. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. All right, let's go ahead and start talking about the different types of casinos. So we have land-based casinos. This is the terminology I'm going to use. We're going to have land-based casinos. We're going to have social casinos, and we're going to have sweepstakes casinos, and then we're going to have kind of some accessory casinos, like extra casinos that don't really fit into any of this. So let's start with land-based casinos. Okay, we're all familiar with those. Vegas, New Jersey, your classic, have all these types of machines that you see behind me in the casinos. Class 3 facility. These are land-based casinos, highly, highly regulated. And I know a lot of people don't believe it, but they are very well protected. It's insane, honestly. I've been on that side of it. I've seen the process before a machine can even be touched for payback percentage or anything. And it's a very lengthy, time-consuming process. And that's all by design, because there's a lot of oversight. There's a lot of regulation to ensure that everybody that's playing has a fair shake at it. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, oh, come on, how can any gambling device be fair? Well, I think it is fair. I mean, you should go in with the expectation of losing overall. I mean, it's a game of chance, right? You're not going to win every single time. No casino would ever put a game in there where you could win every single time. It wouldn't work for them. It's a bad business model, right? So you will lose eventually, but at least I would like to know that I'm doing it fairly and that there's not somebody in the back monkeying with stuff, like, or giving me a false sense of winnability, if that makes sense. And that's what most land-based casinos are like. And that's why we like to play in those, right? Because we like that protection. Plus, you also have the gaming commissions on top of that. So if there ever is a complaint, you can actually file it with the Gaming Commission and get them to look at it. They get thousands of calls every single week from people saying, I saw something fishing on a slot machine, the wheel didn't stop or whatever. I should have been paid and I wasn't. That's what they're there for. You have some kind of recourse if you think something happened that doesn't make any sense to you. And so I like that. I like knowing that I can go in and file a complaint if something just doesn't look on the up and up to me, right? I think we would all want that. All right, then you have social casinos. And this is where people get confused between sweepstakes and social casinos. So social casinos are like Jackpot Party app, Quick Hits app, where you're basically buying virtual coins, but there's no real money involved in cashing out. Does that make sense? Now, they could give away prizes and stuff like that, like they do with Pop Slots. Again, they're a sponsor. If they want to give away prizes like show tickets and stuff like that, they can do that, right? And that is what a social casino is. So no real money involved. You can't spend $100 in there and then cash out $100. That's not allowed in a social casino. And because of that, they don't need all these regulations because no real money is really changing hands except for you buying the virtual currency. It's the same thing as you playing, man, I am hooked on this stupid, what's it called? I got to look it up. Royal Kingdom, man, they finally got me. After all these ads, after years and years, they finally got me. And so I'm hooked on this app, and I try hard not to buy tokens, but every now and then I get stuck on a level, I got to buy that. But that's what's going on, the same thing here with social casinos. That's what that is. All right, so then you have sweepstakes, and they're actually, I think they cannot be called casinos legally. You're basically playing sweepstakes. And this one is this is the gray area. Like, this is where there isn't a whole lot of regulation, but they're not all bad. And that's important that everybody understands that. It's like, especially if the video just came out and my opinions on it and all that, and we'll go into that if we need to, but they're not all terrible, right? There are some very well-established ones that have been around for a very long time and they do well, right? But here's the thing, and this is what scares me the most, is that you don't have the same level of regulations that you do for land-based casinos. And that may be okay for you. And we hear stories of lots of people that have very good success on sweepstakes casinos. They play them, they always get paid, there's never any trouble, things like that, right? And that's great. I think that's good. And they have to do that. Otherwise, people would never play there, right? Because if word got out that you can never cash out or whatever the case is, nobody would want to play there. It would destroy them. And so it's important for them to keep honest and be honest, because otherwise it falls apart, right? Now, there are exceptions, just like what we talked about yesterday in my video. There are exceptions to that, but you can't lump them all in, if that makes sense. But here's the thing. And let me just put this up because I think this will help kind of explain things a little better. Window. Okay. So here's some differences that you should know about with sweeps. So they are not regulated like real casinos. They aren't overseen by state gaming commissions or the Nevada Gaming Control Board the way real money casinos are. Okay, I just told you that. Consumer protection and sweepstakes laws. Instead, they fall under state and federal sweepstakes contest laws, as well as general consumer protection and advertising regulations. That means oversight is much looser and rules can vary by state. So there are still some regulations. It's not the Wild West, but the regulations are significantly less than you would have in a land-based casino. And payment and money transmitter rules. In some cases, payment processors and state attorneys general have stepped in to if a site's practices cross the line and what looks like illegal gaming. So I at least get some comfort from that, knowing that they're at least being watched on that level for illegal gaming activities, like you buying thousands of sweepstakes coins and then never being able to cash out. At least they're looking at it. Now, they don't actively police it like they would on a land-based casino, and I think that's a concern that we should all be aware of, but at least it's being watched, right? And that brings some comfort. But here's the practical implications. I think this is the really important part. Players don't get the same protections they would in a regulated casino. So guaranteed payout percentages, which we get inside of, state-run or tribal casinos. Transparent odds. They will tell you what their odds are, their RTP and things like that on the games, but there's no law saying they have to. So some don't even reveal that at all, or recourse through a gaming commission. So that last thing is what I was just talking about. If something goes on, let's say you even have video evidence that something went wrong and you didn't get paid in the bonus round when you should have, who are you going to run to? You can ask them about it, but they could find some reason to deny it. But then after that, you're done. You can't complain anywhere else. And that's where the gaming commissions for land-based casinos, I think, really step in, because they're advocating for us players, right? And we feel that that's important. So when we say that we don't play with sweepstakes casinos, we don't do it because we know that you will never get paid out. That's not true at all. We don't do it because we like to have very big protection, lots of regulation, knowing if something goes wrong, we have somebody we can run to, right? And that just makes us feel a little bit more comfortable. But again, you make the decision that you want to make. In short, sweepstakes casinos are legal in many places, but they're not regulated as gambling operators. Instead, they operate in a gray zone under sweepstakes contest laws. So take that as you will. Now, let's talk about what the concerns are with sweeps casinos. And what came out this week from Mr. Handpay was a good example of what could go wrong, right? And again, I do not want to get in the middle of he said, she said stuff. I do have my own opinions, and they're very strong as to who I think is right here, but I think it's important that we push that aside and listen to what was said. And this is what I was trying to put together with my video yesterday, is that we need exposure like this. We have to, like, even at the cost of somebody's circle starting to collapse of friends because they have more integrity than others. And it's not an easy decision to make. And if I had to make that decision, that would be a very difficult decision for me to make as well. In fact, I'd probably run it by our members before I even took on something like that, because I don't want there to be any kind of recourse or anything like that. But if you think about what was said in that call and what has been going on, it's very surprising to me. And it's proof that when you don't have regulation and oversight, what could happen. And this is a good example, I think, of what could happen, where transparency is eliminated. And you may be watching something as an ad that doesn't appear to be an ad, right? And I think it's a little dangerous. And I think that, and I really do want to get you guys' opinion in here, but one thing that is, I think, very much missing in this industry for influencers is disclosure. It is required by the FTC. It's very clear. And I posted a link in the video yesterday at the top, a pinned comment on what the FTC regulations are when it comes to that kind of stuff. We should all be doing it. And, even Dave and I need to step up our game a little bit. I'm not saying that we've mentioned it on every single one. We put it in the description, of course, but I think we need to just come out and say it. And that way you guys know that there's some kind of arrangement going on before you hear something, right? And I think it's good for all of us to have that kind of comfort, right? And I think if there can at least be some regulation with sweeps casinos that forces them into that, then I think we can all get along. I think sweepstakes casinos can survive and be good for us. But because that's not there yet, and these things can happen, it's an area where Dave and I just don't feel comfortable recommending. And I hope that changes. I really do. Do I want to see them all go away and burn to hell? Not necessarily. I want to know that they're doing the right thing by us always, right? Trying to create a fair and honest platform. And some of them out there do, right? The ones that we were talking about this week, they didn't. And it came out. And I'm glad it came out, because these are things as players we need to know. We need to know this. And I know a lot of you guys were saying, well, it doesn't really matter whether they're playing with fake money or real money. It doesn't really matter to me. It's different for everybody. Everybody takes it differently. And a lot of people, and I know this because of the channel that we have and the amount of comments that I've read, guys, I've read probably over 500,000 comments just in the last year alone. So I have a pretty good pulse of what people are saying and what they're thinking. And a lot of people just don't understand this relationship. They see somebody playing like that and winning a lot, and they want to emulate it, right? And it's very natural for us to want to do that. A lot of people are looking up these things, how to win at slots. That's why I did that clickbait video a couple days ago, because people are searching for this stuff and they need to know the truth, that there are no methods and ways to trick the system and all that kind of stuff to win. There's just no way to do it. So people are very much interested in this. And my concern is that if you don't know what you're looking at is real or not, you may be making the wrong call. And that's something we should all have. We should all have the information. And if we still want to sign up and play, even with that information, go for it. But I think we really need to have it. So I want to just be careful, because I know that not all of them are crooked. The problem is we don't know. And that's the concern that I have, is that we don't know which are crooked and which aren't. I think the exposure this week taught us that it's possible, where before we always had that funny feeling, in the back of our neck that, man, something just doesn't seem right about these casinos, because there's thousands of them, right? Dave and I get at least 50 every month saying, hey, can you sponsor us? So-and-so, I just crazy names of sweepstakes casinos that just pop up out of nowhere. You go to their website and you look at the website registration date, and it was a month before. And they're looking for us to promote it, because it's very easy to spin up when there's no regulation, no one to apply to, things like that. It's very easy to spin those things up. And how do we know? And that's what we need to be asking ourselves, is how do we know? And so if you do, this is my strongest recommendation. If you're going to play at sweeps casinos, do it. It's fine. But read the terms of service carefully. If you don't want to read the whole thing, copy and paste the whole thing, or send the link to ChatGPT and say, summarize this for me, and get the gist of what the terms of service are. Then also do your research. Look to see if there's any reviews out there. What are the reviewers saying? If you see things like, I'm not able to withdraw my money. I've been trying for 2 weeks to withdraw my money. They're not letting me. Or I keep losing. I was winning at first and now I just keep losing. Start to read those reviews and make your own determination based off of that, right? I think that's what we should all be doing, honestly. All right, let's get back to this. There was actually an extra one that I wanted to mention here, because everybody was bringing it up as being being nefarious, and there are some other ones that are starting to come out, and horseplay was one that was mentioned. We've been working with horseplay guys for probably about 6 months, right? And we do have a signed contract with them. I will be honest with you. We're trying to figure out some things before we really go live with it. But I want to assure people, because of the research that we've done with horseplay, that it is different from these. It is fully US based and licensed. It's available in states that have live horse racing. So all they've done is figured out a way to turn wagering on horse racing into casino style machines that we know and love. So instead of watching horses go around and wagering on that, you can actually just play different games, slot games and things like that, make it a little bit more exciting. That's all they're doing. And you can actually audit the actual races to verify that what you got is the result of the race and things like that. And so we think these guys have done something different. And because it's regulated, US licensed and regulated, I think we can stand behind it. But that's what's most important to us, is the regulation, if that makes sense. So I just don't want to, what I'm trying to say is, and it's not because I'm sponsored by any of these. I mean, we may be doing horseplay very soon, but it's because we don't want to lump everybody into the same bucket, because you can't really do that unless you have proof that something weird is going on. What we're trying to do is just make sure that you guys have the right information, know how to look it up, and then make your decision. You make the decision on what you want to do. If that makes sense. All right. Let's get back to some questions and thoughts in here. All right. Yeah, we just hit 93,000 subscribers. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you. Thank you. I miss my buddy Dave. I wish he was here. It makes it a lot easier. Let's see. Carol Albert says, hey, Mark, have you been to Lake Tahoe? Any luck anywhere? It's our first time there. Yes, I have, and I love those casinos. There's like 4 of them, right? In a circle, well, not a circle, but like just catty corner to each other. Um, yeah, we did all right there actually, and I love those casinos mainly because the denominations are lower, right? They're kind of at our level, at least what we play on this channel, but they also have all the classic 3-roll slots in there too that we like, and some of the newer ones too. I can't really call out any specific one that I remember being better than the others. I think we played probably most at the Caesars property there. I can't remember the name of it, but really nice. And of course, that lake is just right down the road, and it's beautiful out there. So try all of them. They're right next to each other, so you can just walk across the street. It's real nice. I like it. And Mark B says, that's funny because that's mine too, Mark B, although mine's with a C. Are my chances of winning something on slots the same if I stay at 1 or 2 machines the whole time, or play 1 or 2 spins on a machine and move on to the next? So your chances don't change by doing any of that. You could stay at a single machine all night and do thousands of spins, or move around to 100 different machines and do 100 spins on each of those. Your odds are not changing because you're doing that. You got to remember again that machines are not in some kind of balancing mode. Like they're not basing any of their future spins off of past events. And so knowing that, you make the call what you want to do. Personally, I don't like staying at the same machine for a long period of time, because then you start to get tunnel vision and you start to become victim of the chase, where you're just chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. And that's kind of the danger of sticking on one machine, because then you start to feel invested with that machine, if that makes sense. So my recommendation is always to bounce around a little bit, do 20 spins on this machine, or $100 or whatever your budget is, and then make a decision to move to another machine, just so you kind of keep it fresh and moving and not get that tunnel vision, if that makes sense. But your odds do not change by doing any of that. So good stuff. All right, let's see. Yeah, I see some other comments here about this event this week. Again, what I was trying to say in my video yesterday is the takeaway here is disclosure and transparency, right? And again, I challenge all influencers to start doing this. If you are sponsored at all by being at a certain place or doing a video, just come out and say it. It doesn't hurt anybody, right? What hurts is that you're doing something that's against the FTC rules and regulations. And I mean, I don't know if it'll come back to bite you or not, but eventually they may start cracking down on this stuff. And then you're going to be in a scramble to try to go back to all your old videos and put disclaimers in. You might as well just mention it. That's my opinion. Just so people understand the relationship. And this is not just with our industry, but with product reviews, people doing like Dyson vacuum review. Well, it's not a review, it's a paid sponsorship, and they control the messaging. That's different. And you should know that, right? Because then you may go out and buy a Dyson vacuum on false pretenses, where somebody's just talking about the good and not talking about the bad. And that's what I think this space, the influencer space, casino influencer space, needs more of too, where people are saying, hey, so-and-so sponsored me. They gave me $2,000 in free play to play here to entertain you guys. Done. That's all you got to say. And I think we should all start to do that. Like I said, Dave and I are going to step up our game. We've already done this. We've been very adamant about who we're sponsored with, which is not much right now intentionally, but we're getting to the size where more and more of these opportunities are coming. And if it's a good fit for you guys, then we will bring them on and we will tell you about it. And I think that's an important thing, right? Disclosure. Let people make their own decisions, but offer the right information, if that makes sense. All right. Let me get back to some more here. RedUp says, what is the purpose some casinos now require to show ID at entry? This is actually pretty common depending on where you're at. I think every Louisiana casino that we've been to, you have to show ID to even enter. It's a couple reasons. They have tighter controls over age verification, but it's also checking to see if you are self-excluded, which means you're not allowed in there, you're trespass. So there's a couple reasons why they do that. It's not for tracking or anything like that. It's mostly just to make sure, because it's on them. If somebody's in there and they're 16 years old and they don't stop them from gambling, they get in trouble, right? So it's on them to police that. And if well, that's why a lot of them just say, well, just don't let anybody in the door unless they're a certain age. So, all right. James Smith says, what's your favorite top dollar? 1 line, 5 line, or 9 line? So I like the old 5 line, but not the new 5 line. I think the new 5 line, that's 6 credits to bet to get the bonus. That one's a little tough to hit. But I do have to say I love the 9 line version. I'm liking it more and more, but as long as I can find it in lower denominations like quarters and 50 cents. When it gets up to $10 a spin, it's kind of rough. But the bonus frequency is a little bit better on that one. So I like the action, if that makes sense. All right, let's see. And Kim Sleuth says, I feel like we have been misled into thinking we can replicate those huge bets and wins. And it's an education thing more than anything, guys. Like that's what this is influencers are being paid to influence, right? And it's like I said in my video, it's natural for us to get these. It's going to happen. You can't avoid it forever. It's the only way to generate money. You know, Dave and I would love to quit our day job someday, but that's never going to happen in the short term because we need to get more partnerships in, and we're being selective about what we bring in because we want to make sure it's right for you, right? And I think that not understanding what you're seeing, and this is why I don't have a problem with it, but I call out some videos where people are demonstrating how to do something, like how to get jackpots and stuff like that, but they never show the losses inside of that video. And so people are thinking, wow, that looks really easy. Let me go do that. And that's where the danger comes in, right? Because they're trying to replicate. Hey, I want to hit a hand pay. Everybody wants to hit a hand pay. But when you watch it and you're like, wow, they made it look so easy to do it. I can't wait to try it. And then you lose your ass. You're going to have a hard time understanding what happened. What did I do wrong? And I've gotten emails from people like this that say, I followed exactly what so-and-so said to do. I put $4,000 through the machine and never got more than my bet back. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. That's the expected result every single time you play the slot machine. And you should realize that you're not everybody's going to be a winner, and you need to know that. And a lot of us don't. And I think that's why transparency and honesty and showing a game, especially that is the same that you would get if you were playing it, is really critical. So I'm definitely with you there. All right, let's see. Can you come to France to give all your good tips to people? No such things here. I wish I could. Will you give us room and board if we come out there? All right. Let's see what else we got in here. Appreciate you guys spending a Sunday afternoon with me. I really appreciate it. Let's see what else we got. And Chris D says, are bonus rates different with licensed online casinos like DraftKings or FanDuel? I live in Connecticut, but I feel like I hit so little bonus rounds online. Probably not. Those games that are in FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, things like that, a lot of them are using the same programming as the ones that are on the casino floor, and their RTPs are probably similar also. So I don't think there's really any change there. Especially with the RTP, it's going to be pretty close to the land-based counterpart. Let's see. And Fishizzle says, tips on selecting a dependable used slot machine for home. That's a good question. So we do sell slot machines. We have them on our website. The only one I have left for sale right now is this Tabasco that's right here. It's turned off right now. We've got more coming in hopefully soon, but right now it's kind of slim pickings because we got through a lot of them, but we also have some top dollars here that we're working on. So the tips are, unless you know what you're doing, don't buy slot machines off of Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, things like that, because you need to have some knowledge in how to fix them, repair them, or at least have a lifeline to reach out to tell you how to fix a certain thing that you have. There's not a whole lot of information out there. It's hard to come by when you get errors and things like that because they don't come with manuals. There's no manuals for this stuff. But you need to buy from someplace that's willing to support you over the period of time that you own the machine. And that's something that we do. So we do provide a warranty on parts, limited, of course, but we will help you as long as you own the machine for troubleshooting errors and stuff like that. And so that's what you really need to look for. And I understand that that's going to cost a little bit more, but I promise you it's going to be worth it, because you need to have that lifeline. Otherwise, you're going to have a dead weight and you're going to be like, I can't get rid of this thing now. And it's just, I paid money for something that's not working. And usually it's a very simple fix that if you knew somebody that knew that, you could get it back up and working, if that makes sense. So yeah, just those are the things that I would recommend looking for. I know we don't have a lot for sale, so I'm not pushing you to buy anything from us, but you can check out Slot Machines Unlimited. They've got a pretty good supply there, and they offer support. But just try to stay away from like the local people selling, because who knows? You get it home, doesn't turn on. What do you do? Right? Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. All right, yeah, Kim, I'll put this one up too, because I'll talk a little bit more about this. So, I love the video you did yesterday on all these under the table playing. Watched it after I saw Mr. Hampay's video. So, guys, we've been getting so many comments on that video, and I'm struggling with some of them because it's not so much the name calling. I mean, I think even with the, I don't know, 800 or something comments we have on that video, I've only had to delete like 3, which is really good. I'm very impressed. There are actually some good human beings out there. And I don't care which opinion you have. Like that's the point of this, right? Is we need to all get our opinions out there and talk about it. However you see it. Maybe I misread something and you interpreted it different. Put it in there. Let me see it, right? Let's all talk about it and go back and forth. But I think the point I wanted to make in my video is that we need to talk about this and need to bring this stuff to the surface. And it's very unfortunate, in my opinion, that some of these big influencers are just trying to brush this under the rug like it didn't happen. And I hope that they come out with some kind of response, because right now the only responses I've seen are just a bunch of name calling and bringing up skeletons and things like that. And that's not helping anything here. It's not helping anything. We're never going to be able to promote change if it's a bunch of name calling back and forth. It's just not going to happen. This will be forgotten after a week, and we'll go back to just playing with fake money again, and you guys don't know. Is that what we want? That's not what I want. I think this is why I jumped all over Mr. Hampay's video, is because this is what we need to start a momentum of change in this industry, transparency. And this is the proof that we needed, that this kind of stuff may be going on, and that will help us to uncover and get it, start to demand change in this industry, right? And there's ways to do it. But in my opinion, the ways to do it is not to just, this guy is terrible, don't listen to him, he's got a bad past, blah, 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 whatever the case is, and then just case closed. That's not going to work for me. That's not going to work for me. So I hope that they will come out with something to say, we will stop playing for fake money, or we will disclose that we're playing with fake money. And then we can all move forward with that. I know I'm asking for too much, and it's probably never going to happen, but that's what I would hope. In a perfect world, that's what I would hope, is that we're not like causing divides here where everybody's just being segmented into these groups because they don't want to face reality or whatever the reasoning is. It's unfortunate. It really is. It's sad. And I hope that we can move past this and become better people. We are influencers. We are not just influencers to our viewers, but we should be influencers in this space as well. We should use our voices to demand change, to come up to sweeps casinos and say, we want you to be more regulated or more transparent whenever you do this and this and this and this. That's what us influencers, I think, should be doing right now. But unfortunately, that's just not the way it's going. I hope it changes, but that's just not the way it's going right now. And that's the way I feel. I just want us all to get along. It's a headache. And for those of you who think that, hey, we had a lot of comments of the people saying that I did it just for the views. Guys, if you know who I am and who Dave and I are, that is not the reason we did that video. Am I happy that we're getting a lot of views? But yes, I am. But the reason is because people are listening. People are paying attention to the actual message that I put in there, and they're sharing it around. And that's great. because that's what I ultimately want to get out of that video, is break it down just a little bit. I think Jason, Mr. Hampay, did a great job of releasing all of this damning information, but I wanted to take it a step further and kind of just compress it a little bit, so the average person can understand what's going on here, and then we can talk about it, right? That's what I want more than anything. All right. I'll get off of that for now. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, I know there's a lot of like comments being removed and all that kind of stuff. And I never really understood that with YouTube. I'm not trying to get on the soapbox here, but the one thing YouTube allows us influencers to do is control the narrative. Like I could easily, and go look at the video, guys. There's hundreds of people that say I'm wrong, I'm full of it, I shouldn't have drinking the juice and all this kind of stuff. Did I delete any of them? No, I did not. And a lot of them I've replied to and saying, I understand your position, it's fair, but here's what I think. And that's what I want us to be, better humans. Talk amongst each other without this negativity and name calling and craziness. Like everybody's going to have an opinion one way or another, but I'm not going to go around to start deleting comments because I don't agree with it. And unfortunately, a lot of influencers do that because they want people to see the comment section and say, oh, you're the best, we love you, all this kind of stuff. Nobody talking against them whatsoever. And whenever I see that, I'm like, well, we kind of know what's going on, because somebody's going to disagree with you eventually. It happens, right? And people disagree with me, and that's fine. Again, I don't take it personally. I really don't. We're all entitled to our opinions, but I've been very, very impressed that people have been very respectful to the most part, very civil. You know, there's been some bad ones in there, but those got removed not because of what they were saying, but because of the language and name calling and stuff. And that's not what we're here for. So, all right. Let's see what else we got. I said I was going to stop talking about it. Here we go. Let's see. And Paragon 21 says, any update on the taxable jackpots being increased to 2,000? How long will casinos have to increase this? I can't imagine places like WinStar could change all those games overnight. Yeah, so what could change immediately, so on January 1st, this is when it goes into effect. I fully expect that a lot of the machines that you play will still lock up at 1,200, but you just won't have to fill out paperwork unless it's over, if it's 2,000 or higher. Does that make sense? So they will still come and hand pay you, but you won't have to fill out the W2G. And I suspect that's what the process is going to be. As a slot technician, I can tell you that they have to physically touch every single machine to change that limit from 1,200 to 2,000. And not only that, some machines, in fact, a lot of machines are going to need new jurisdiction chips. And so if you're replacing chips, state gaming's going to have to come out and all this stuff. And so it's going to be a very long process for some of these. Now on the bingo machines, they could change that overnight. That's not a big deal, right? But on the class 3 machines, like you see behind me, they're not going to be able to just, flip a switch and have that done. So I think that's going to be the expected result, is you'll still get a hand pay, but and this will be something that they just slowly start to weed out. Anytime there's a new game on the floor, you'll see, see it at 2,000, but then they'll just retroactively start to go back and change the other ones, if that makes sense. All right. Let's see. Sorry, guys, it's just harder with one person, because usually what happens is when one of us is talking, the other one is queuing up questions, and that's why it flows so well on Wednesdays. But that's okay. And Bill says, yeah, the truth hurts. I mean, if you believe in that, what we've been talking about, people don't like it, and they react accordingly. I don't understand, because even if I got called on to something that Dave and I screwed up on, we're going to be the first to get on camera and tell you guys we screwed up. Like, oops, this isn't what we intended to do, but it happened. And so here we are apologizing to you. Why is that so complicated? I guess I'm different than most people. I don't know. I just feel like we need more of that, right? We need more of, you know, one of my bosses told me a long time ago, because when I was a kid, punk out of college, writing programming code and stuff like that, I would get so defensive whenever he would say, "Oh, you messed something up or whatever." I would get defensive and say, "Well, what do you know? You're an idiot. You don't know what I'm doing." And that kind of stuff. Maybe I wasn't that aggressive, but um, a couple of jobs later, a boss came up to me and he said, "I'm going to give you a tip that you should always remember: is when you goof up, you be the first to let everybody know that you goofed up. You tell your boss, you tell yourself, you tell your spouse, whatever, you tell them that you messed up and you're going to do this to make sure it doesn't happen in the future." And guys, that is the best advice I can give for anybody in that situation, whether it's your job, your home life, whatever the case is. We need to admit to each one of us that we are fallible, we're human, we make mistakes, but humans have a very powerful thing, and that is to learn from their mistakes. Now, if you just keep making the same mistakes over and over again, I don't really feel sorry for you. But if you are the kind of person that, you know, makes a mistake and is honest and open with everybody about it, you're going to go a long way, right? You'll earn their respect, you'll earn the integrity, and people will forgive you. I think they will forgive you more often than if you just try to deny that it ever happened and try to shuffle it under the rug. That's just my opinion, but I think that's the way it should be. Hopefully you guys agree with that. Yeah, that's right, Kestrel. I remember that one. Mark misstated something on a daily tip video, posted corrected video the very next day. Yeah, I was wrong. I mean, I don't sit up here and say I'm 100% right all the time, but if I do make a mistake and somebody proves me wrong, I'm going to correct it. You better believe it. And I will come out and say that I said something that was incorrect. I need to correct it. All right. Matthew, it's funny because everybody gets this. We joked about we get this question every single live stream, and that's okay. So, hey, Mark, is it better to max bet 50 lines on penny or min bet 25 lines on 10 cent? And both bets are $5. I get the bonus values change, but which one yields better results in your opinion? It's tough. It really depends on the game in that situation because you're talking about different number of lines that are bet. I mean, probably. Yeah, it's that one's so close that it could be a wash. It really doesn't matter in the end. I want to make sure people understand that just by increasing your denomination from, say, penny to 10 cent, there's not going to be this dramatic shift in payback return, right? At best, it may be 2 percentage points at best. And those 2 percentage points cannot be realized in such short term. That's such a small blip on the accounting records of a slot machine. That's not something you would notice in the short term. But all things considered, if you know that it is higher, bet the higher denomination. But we just don't want people to think that I need to start expanding my budget to bet more because of that. Does that make sense? Like, don't start betting higher because you heard on the street that dollar denomination pays way better than pennies. Is that true? Of course it is. Most casinos set their denominations of the dollar higher than the penny slots. Penny slots are the worst. But in the short term, it is not worth your effort of putting a lot more money into the machine to try to reach that dollar. It's just not going to work out in your favor in the short term like that. It just won't. Good question, though. Hopefully I answered your question, but it really depends on the game. Okay, let's see. Hey, Seattle, Susie Q. Good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. All right, we'll go for a little bit longer here, unless you guys keep pumping through the questions. Nathan, no, I've never played in Harrah's, Cherokee, North Carolina. Maybe someday. All right, guys, keep the questions coming in. I'll keep answering them. Karen says, I play wherever I see a slot machine. That sounds scary. Oh, man. Just going through here, guys. Paragon 21 says, as a tech, what is your least favorite manufacturer cabinet model to work on? Apex is terrible for those QR codes also. Really hate Aristocat, Realmcat. My arch nemesis is the one that's sitting right behind me, and that's the SAVP from IGT. I have more like scrapes and bruises and bleed. I mean, I will work on these machines, and then blood is coming out everywhere. I clean it up before I sell them, I promise. But yeah, this was probably the worst cabinet design that ever came out, and I understand why, because they were trying to like, it was that point in time where the miniaturization of technology slowed down, and so they were trying to jam way too much tech in such a small space, and so it's really difficult to work on because of that. And they're just, there's optics, there's door optics that are always a pain in the butt. There's switches in there. There's the back plane is so tight to get in there with your fingers, and it's just a mess. So that's probably my worst. My favorite, believe it or not, are Ainsworth cabinets because they're so easy. They're mostly empty, right? They're just the best cabinets to work on. They're the easiest. Good question. Let's see. We got Jason in the house. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for being here. You just missed my whole thing. All right, let's see. All right, Neo29 says, are all new slot games all on high volatility, or are there new games modern or low volatility? No, they're not all high. Certainly not. The trend is definitely in that direction, the medium high to high. We definitely see that. But actually, according to one of the manufacturers, casinos are starting to demand lower volatility slots because I think people are getting a little exhausted with playing a slot machine and not getting any bonus rounds or anything. And, people want the action back. And it's funny because there's been this ebb and flow of this throughout the years where back in the early 2000s, the games were mostly low volatility. And then they kind of did trend up a little bit, but then people were like, no, we'd rather have more frequent bonus rounds, but never like gigantic paying bonus rounds. We'd rather just have more action, right? So they started to do that. But then around pre-COVID times, they started to jack up the volatility because everybody wanted to see the gigantic wins and big jackpots and all that. And then I think YouTube plays a role in that because people are seeing just the wins in a lot of cases. And so we started to see that trend into the higher volatility. But then after COVID, they're like, I think we kind of pushed it a little bit too far. So I think they're going to dial it back a little bit. But yeah, not all of them are high. Again, watch YouTube, watch other people play it, long sessions. Mr. Hampay's in here. He does that. He plays very long sessions with games, and you will see the losses. You will see the wins, but you'll be able to gauge the volatility by just watching somebody else play it for a little while. Look for how frequent the bonus rounds come up. When they do come up, is there a big range in payouts? Is it always good or always low, or is it anywhere in between? Those things can give you a clue as to volatility of the game. So take a look at that. But no, they're not all volatility. I hope they will start to come down a little bit. Some of these games are ridiculous. You can't get anything on them. Hey, Omar's in the house. Hey, Omar, good to see you. So if one of us hitting on one machine, should the other one keep spinning? Since one machine already picking the winning numbers, or one should start spin again after the red screen does its effect? Okay, so you're talking about class 2 machines. Since one machine already picking the numbers, or should we start spin? Okay, I got you. Okay. It's not going to make any difference. So I think what he's saying is if we're sitting at two different VGT machines, which are the class 2 machines, and we hit the button at the same time, are we going to get the same result? Or is there any difference there? Is one of us going to get a win and one of us not? The answer to that is no. The way class 2 bingo works, and there's a lot of confusion here. I really need to put out another video on this because I've learned a lot in the last couple of months. But the game of bingo is very simply that somebody on the bingo call out during the bingo game has to get a full card for that penny or whatever they pay you for winning the game of bingo. Somebody that's playing has to win that, right? And whenever that happens, that's when the new game begins and the bingo call outs occur. Everything that happens in between that, from the start of the game until somebody wins the winning pattern, is completely randomized. It's a prize distribution that is randomized The cards are dealt by random. The prize values associated with those cards are dealt by random. So it really doesn't matter who hits the button first or whatever. You're not taking somebody's win away because they just don't work that way. Now, VLTs, like in Washington, is a lot different than that. And we'll be doing a video on that eventually. But Class 2, all the prize distributions that happen, it doesn't matter how many people are playing. It doesn't matter who's around you, if you're hearing bells or not. None of that stuff matters, time of day. It's just, again, it's us trying to get that confirmation bias of, well, when I do this, I definitely see wins, or I know when something's about to hit, or I wait until late in the bingo call out to press the spin button. None of that stuff's making any impact whatsoever on the outcome. So I hope I understood your question right, but that's what I was talking about there. All right. Sean White Buffalo says, when a bonus is initiated, is the outcome predetermined? It seems like you can tell when it's done. Example, UFL. No, it's not. But there is some mechanics to this. So for anything that has free spins in it, to my knowledge, I have not seen any exceptions to this, but anything that has free games, whether it's hold and spin or it's just natural free games, the result is not predetermined. Like when you start that bonus round, there's going to be an RNG pool for every single spin that you do. But the feeling that it's about to give up, right? That you seem to get a bunch of balls at first that fall in, ultimate Firelink, and then it just kind of gives up. That's by design, and it's based on the probabilities. So the probabilities of getting future balls depends on the probabilities that has already played out. So if you have a bunch of balls already landed, the probability of getting additional ones starts to shrink. So it's harder for the RNG to pick one of those balls out of the fishbowl. So imagine every time a ball lands, the amount of winning balls in that fishbowl starts to shrink, and then they add more dead ones in there. Does that make sense? So that's why it seems to fizzle out. It's not because it's already determined to do that. It's just that the RNG is going to have a harder time picking those last balls to get you up to the top layer or whatever the case is, or getting that grand ball. So hopefully I explained that right. All right. And Rich has a good question. Just curious, on the wager saver games, if you have a 75-cent bet left on the machine, are your chances of winning the same if you hit the $1 bet and the $5 bet? So the chances of winning the wager save games depends on how far away you are from the bet size. So if you're betting 75 cents and you're doing a wager saver on $1, you basically have a 75% chance of getting the wager saver. But if you have 75 cents left in the machine and you're betting $5, that's way far away. And so your chances are dramatically decreased in getting that because of the difference between the 75 cents and the $5. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's see. Okay, Viscous Man, on a slot like Triple Stars, is a new RNG sample taken each time the bet one credit button is pressed? After pressing one credit, or is another RNG sample taken or original retained? So the operation here is that whenever you commit to the bet, and what that means to you guys is whenever you press the spin button or pull the handle, that is what causes the RNG to pull. And it pulls a number for every single reel on the machine. So if you're playing Triple Stars, 3-reel game, as soon as you press the bet button, it's going to pull 3 different numbers from the RNG, and then that's going to result in what the physical reels move to. And then it evaluates it. It says, is this a win? If it's a win, how much? If it's a loss, don't do anything. So that's what's actually going on. It waits for the committal of the bet, like pulling the handle, etc. Mike says, hey, Mark, on the symbol on the reel that has a bar and a 7 sign on it, is that considered 2 symbols when it hits to replace whatever lands, or is it 7? It is the 7 times bar. That's what that's called. So that's actually kind of essentially almost a wild, but only with mixed bars and mixed 7s. Or if you end up getting 3 of the 7 times bar, if that makes sense. So it's basically just a mixer. It can be part of 3 mixed bars, or it can be part of 3 mixed 7s. Good question. Retap says, is a losing streak like the RTP on a cold slot? So you brought up my favorite topic, hot and cold. So machines do not intentionally or purposely become hot or cold, and certainly not in a way that you can detect future outcomes. And that's where a lot of people slip up, because they make betting decisions based off of this. They see a machine behaving frequently, like it's getting a lot of line hits, getting a lot of bonus rounds, and then they make the false assumption that that machine is hot. I better not get off of it. But because we know that each individual spin is a separate RNG event, that tells you nothing. So you will see streaks like that, though. You will see times where the machine appears cold and appears hot. And I'm using those in quotes. What that is randomness at play. It's that stuff really needs to happen for something to be considered random. If it wasn't, if we did not see hot and cold streaks, then I would question if it was actually random or not, because those things have to happen. Think about it like this, the flipping of the coin, right? It's 50-50. It's either going to be heads or tails. So how do you explain getting 5 heads in a row if you flip a coin? It can happen, right? You could probably do it right now and end up with 5 heads. Does that mean that the 6th time you flip it, it has to be tails? No, because the odds haven't changed. Now, it's likely that, that streak will not continue, but it doesn't tell you anything about future outcomes, right? And that's the gambler's fallacy at work. So whenever you see a slot machine that appears cold or appears hot, it doesn't tell you anything about the RTP, and it doesn't tell you anything about the future outcomes either. Now, what you do have control over seeing in the limited number of spins is the volatility. So 100, 500 spins, something like that, you can start to kind of feel the volatility of the game. What type of game design is this? Is this one that pays frequently, but the bets are in, or the wins are little? Or is it the ones that, you get the bonus round and it's humongous, but it takes forever to get the bonus round? That would be a high volatility game. So that's something that you can kind of feel in the short term. So I hope to answer your question there. All right. And Slots Iowa, $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate your contribution. Thank you. Thanks for all the great advice. It really helps when deciding what machines to play. Well, awesome. Glad to hear that. Yep. It's all about education, guys. And Jojo Mars says, when you say penny machine, does that mean 1 cent denomination or any denomination underway? It means 1 cent denomination. And we have a $1.99 super chat for Suzanne's I Heart Video Poker. Really enjoy the channel. Thank you so much. Sorry we don't play video poker too much. We're hoping to change that eventually. It's just kind of boring. I don't know. Let's see. And Teresa Cinco says, my sister and I usually sit at adjoining slots. Would it be better to sit further away, as one machine might pay off and the one next to it won't make any difference? Sit with your friend or your sister and play. Have fun. It won't make any difference. And Robert says, does the Mustang Money 2 bonus come around more than Thunder Cash? Yes, it does. Thunder Cash is pretty rough. Like, I think if I remember correctly, the odds of getting, the overall average odds of getting the Thunder Cash bonus is like 1 in 105, 105 spins. That's pretty rough. It's out there. And Tar Boy says, my favorite slots are the Dragon Link slots. I was wondering if they have plans to introduce new games where they may be different bonus options. Oh, they will all the time. Dragon Link is one of the best. Dragon Link and Buffalo are the 2 aristocrat kingpins here. Like, those are the 2 best themes that they've ever come out with. And they're not going anywhere, I promise you. So I think we will see more iterations of Dragon Links, although people really do like the classics that are still out right now. But I think they will start to play with it a little bit and have more themes with different types of bonus rounds, things like that. Mike says, curious, some machines have a charge port for a cell phone. Of course, they extract it. Can they extract any information? No, they can't do that. It's literally on the backside, and I think I don't have it right here on this one, but it's literally just a power cable coming out the back of it. So it's just the red and black cables that go into the USB, which means there's no data being transferred. So it's purely power. They can't do anything with that, and you can't do anything to the machine either through that port. A lot of people think you could do that. Let's see. And Matthew says, for hold and spin, when you see the ball flashing on that final slot, is the odds of landing that final ball still ultra low? Yeah, it is. And so here's the thing with the hold and spin. I think we mentioned this before, but essentially what happens is whenever the game starts, there's going to be one square on there that you're going to notice be incredibly empty, and it's going to move around the board, right? You'll spot it probably within the first couple of spins that you do. You'll see one that just seems to be rotating through stuff and you don't see anything on it. So that's that final reel. that is going to be tough to get the bonus on, right? Or get the ball to land on it. And so if you see it flashing, it doesn't really tell you anything of expected value if you have more increased chances of it getting or not. There is some. God, how am I going to explain this? Some of these things are so complicated to explain, but I'm going to try to do it anyway. So there's a theory out there. We don't know for sure because I don't know any Aristocrat developers, but it's definitely a mechanic that's possible. And that is whenever you do a hold and spin, whenever you initiate the bonus, there's 2 layers of RNG that's happening. The first random number generator is actually picking which of the virtual reels that's going to be used. And some of those may have bigger balls in it or more, more frequent balls to pick on that last square, if that makes sense. So that actually starts at the beginning of the game. And this could be explained why some of the games that you have, you just seem to be getting really low balls all the time. And then some you end up getting like, wow, I just got a major and I just got another major. It's like, what is going on here? That first RNG may have picked a reel set, the virtual reel set for each of those squares that is paying higher. And then the bonus round plays out with that certain reel set, if that makes sense. Guys, it's so hard to explain. I hope it's making sense, guys. But you could, at the initiating bonus, you could have one that has a couple more of those balls in it. And that's why you see it flashing more frequently. But it doesn't give you kind of any guarantee. It just may be a little bit easier to get because the balls are, flashing. Wow, I need to do a standalone video on that because I probably confused the hell out of everybody. Let's see. Oh, Mike V, I love this question. Big question mark. What's the first slot you plan on playing in October after all these months of abstinence? Looking forward to seeing you at every one of G2. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for it. It's probably going to be some version of Top Dollar, I would imagine. I don't know. We will see. I'm still trying to think about that, what it's going to be. But it probably will be some kind of version of Top Dollar. And I know that Downtown Grand has double Top Dollar there, so it might end up being that. Let's see. Carol says, is it the same RNG for $1 versus $5 bet, or does it change with each denomination? So the RNG it's just a random number generator. That's the same for every manufacturer has the same RNG. So every cabinet, all the IGT cabinets have one, all the Light and Wonder cabinets have one. All it's doing is generating randomness, generating random numbers, right? That's all it's doing. But what changes between $1 and $5 is the payback percentage setting, which is the game percentage, could be different. And in most cases, the $5 will be higher. Now, fraction of a payback percentage or maybe 1 or 2 points different. So what that does is it changes what the RNG can pick from. So whenever they create a game with a higher payback percentage, they take some of let's say they're trying to increase it. They will take some of the lower paying symbols out of there, like the cherries and the blanks and things like that, and then exchange them for higher paying symbols like single bars, double bars, things like that. And that will change the math over the long term to equate to a higher payback percentage. And so in theory, the longer you play on a specific like denomination, like a $5, let's say it's a 2% difference, in the long run, you will notice you win a little bit more. In the short term, it's impossible to tell on something that small of a range. It's just not going to be something you'd be able to detect. That makes sense. My brain is fried. It's hard to do this without Dave. But thanks for hitting me up, guys. Appreciate it. All right, let's see. Neo says, what is the minimum percentage RTP in the states, if any? So every state varies with this. Nevada is 75%. But I will tell you this. I've had thousands of machines come through my shop that I've worked on. And there hasn't been a single game that I've worked on where there's an option lower than 83%. Manufacturers just don't really build them that way. Now, there may be exceptions, but to my knowledge and what I've seen, 83% is the lowest that is possible on most of the games out there. But check your individual state for their rules. It's usually 75, 80. It's somewhere around that where the minimums are. Omar says, when is the Gamble Smart group having a get-together at WinStar? I know you're looking forward to that. Would love to do a group pool and days worth of fun with meet and greet. Maybe not for a while. We've got our big G2E meetup coming very soon, and that's where our focus is. That's going to be a blast, guys. We got 100 30 people signed up at this point that's going to be there. It's going to be a wild time. I hope we have enough room. So we're focusing on that, and that's happening at G2E. So. All right, let's see. Daniel says, from all the usual questions about winning or how to win in slot machines, what makes a slot machine give a huge win or jackpot like the grand, or just getting a great bonus? It's all about the randomness. You getting lucky, pushing that button and hitting the right combination of RNG pulls to give you that win. But the probabilities are stacked against you, right? And that should be general knowledge that the harder or the bigger the win potential, like the grand jackpot, the harder it's going to be for that RNG to come down and pick it, right? Because they can't let those things go off all the time. It'll throw off everything. So whatever the odds are, we don't know exactly. I wish we could, but we don't know the exact odds of hitting the grand or any particular game. But it's just going to be difficult, and the probabilities are stacked against your favor. So even if the average is like 1 in 100,000 pulls, it still could take 200,000 or 300,000 before you get that lucky pull and it picks out the grand, if that makes sense. Let's see. All right. Adam's exploits. Hey, I sent you a message on Instagram. I don't even think I have that logged in. Dave might have got it. We're so terrible on other platforms. It's all YouTube right now. We really got to change that. It's Silver, man. I haven't seen you in forever. How you doing, man? Yeah, that is the original S Plus double top dollar. I can't believe I found this thing. There's only 2 known to exist right now, and I'm so happy to have one of them. This is the original. This came out after the original top dollar came out, and it's very unique. It's very cool. I love it. I'll never get rid of it. Well, I'll never say never, but the price is high. Let me put it that way. All right. Well, let's wrap this up, guys. I went for about an hour and a half here. I'm getting tired. My brain's starting to get fried, but I appreciate you guys being in here. Thank you so much for your contributions and your questions. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And don't forget, gamble smart, gamble safe. We'll see you on Wednesday. We'll probably have a video or something come out before then. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday evening. Take care out there. Be safe. And we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.